Today I'm going to talk about a really cool strategy that's called the Smith Maneuver, which is not to be confused with the Ryan Smith Maneuver, where his coach would be like, Smitty, just go to the net, get in front of the puck, get your stick or your face or your body on the puck and try and get it into the net. And he would be like, okay coach, I'll do whatever you want. No, the Smith Maneuver in financial planning is basically a strategy that you can use where you can essentially write off the interest payments of your mortgage. It definitely doesn't work for everybody. And today I'm wearing my McDavid jersey because last week one of the few people that actually watch my videos all the time said, Kent, where's your McDavid jersey? And I have one hanging up on the wall over there, and then I have this one that I wear to games. And I'm also wearing this Orion Plastics hat because last week I had the pleasure of interviewing the president of Orion Plastics, which is just an absolutely incredible company, and I interviewed him on my podcast, A Funny Story About Money, where he told me how he worked his way up through the company and became president. So if you want to check it out, it's on Podbean, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I kind of wanted to get into a series where I wanted to talk about how you could use your mortgage to help you out in certain financial situations. The first one would be to refinance your mortgage to pay off bad debt. And I've been in talks with a mortgage broker friend of mine. I want to bring her on the show and interview her and ask her some things, and I'll kind of give my input on how I think people should do it correctly, but she'll give more insight about how actually it works to refinance your mortgage. So that'll come soon. Then there's this one, of course, the Smith Maneuver. And then the last one is for people that are struggling through retirement. There's something called a reverse mortgage. So I'll talk about that soon. This one just kind of worked out. Recently I got contacted by a client who was coming into some money potentially, and his first thought was, you know what, Kent, I kind of want to pay off my mortgage. I said, that's great. That's a really good opportunity for you. You'd be mortgage free. One thing that you need to think about if you're going to pay off your mortgage is that to actually really get ahead is to still pretend you have that mortgage payment and keep investing that money instead of paying down your mortgage. But there are some other options. So there are some other options that I wanted to talk to him about. And I mean, just to lay it out so that he knows what the options are. And so today I'm going to lay out 4 potential options for somebody in this scenario. And the Smith Maneuver works best for somebody that's, you know, a higher net worth Canadian that actually has some capital outside of their RSP and their TFSA to pay off their mortgage. And at the end of the video I'll talk about how average Canadians that don't have that kind of money can do it, but I'm not going to get into too detailed of an analysis of that. So let's just look at this example, and we're going to talk and we're going to pretend that this guy is 40 years old. He's got a $300,000 mortgage that he's paying 3%, so for the next 20 years, so his mortgage payments are $1,664 a month. He's also just so happens to be coming in to exactly $300,000. And then I'm also going to assume a rate of return of 5%. Obviously, I mean, rates of return can change significantly. They could be higher, they could be lower. So that makes a big difference. And this isn't going to be a perfect example because it is more based on the individual and their specific circumstances. Depending on how much their income is, what their RSP room is, how much TFSA room they have, all of these other factors. So I'm going to try and make it as fair as humanly possible, but there could be some sort of differences along the way that would change how this would actually play out. So just keep that in mind before I get into the example. Option one is this person can do exactly what I just said. They can pay off their mortgage. They might have to pay a penalty to pay off their mortgage, lose a few $1,000s, but I'm not going to calculate that into there. And then they're going to invest $1,664 into a combination of their RSP and TFSA. And I'm not going to work into the tax savings and what he's going to get back if he does that. I'm just going to pretend he gets a 5% rate of return, see what he has at the end of 20 years. Option two is this person could just continue with their mortgage payments and invest $300,000 into a non-registered portfolio, because let's just assume he doesn't have RSP and TFSA room, even though over time what we would do is we would structure it to pay into those accounts. But since it's in a non-registered account, he's going to be paying taxes on the growth as this account builds. So now I'm just going to assume that he's going to take a 20% haircut from taxes and be left with an after-tax return of 4%. Now option three is the first use of this Smith maneuver, and it's really similar to option two. He's just restructuring the way that this debt looks in order to give him a tax advantage. So this is the one that actually is probably the best comparison. So what he does is he takes $300,000, pays off his mortgage, and then he borrows $300,000 if he has that equity in his house that he can borrow against at a slightly higher interest rate, 3.5%, and he invests that money. And you say, why the hell would you pay a higher rate for that debt if you... But when he does that, that enables him to write off the interest of that loan because he's using that money to invest. So his payments are now $76 a month higher. So what I'm going to do to make it fair at the end of the day is just say that guys in 1, 2, and option 4 are actually also investing $76 extra a month to try and make it as fair as possible. So now, roughly speaking, he's able to write off $10,500 worth of interest in the first year, which is going to decrease as his loan goes down, but he's getting to write that off, so his after-tax return is going to be higher than the guy in option 2. So for my example, I'm going to assume he's getting an after-tax return of 4.7%. And now there's option 4, which is the riskiest option, but as is generally in the case of financial planning or sort of anything or investing, the higher the risk, the higher the potential reward. So this is kind of like option 3. What he does is he pays off his mortgage for $300,000, and now he borrows that same $300,000, and all that he does is pays the interest off of that debt. So he's paying off $10,500 every year of interest, but he's left with $10,380 remaining that he can invest into his RSP and his TFSA every single year. And now at the end of the 20-year period, he's going to have to sell off $300,000 of his investments to pay off the loan. Hope that makes sense. So now let's just look at the results. Remember option 1, the guy just paid off his mortgage and invested. He has $715,200 if he got a 5% rate of return. That's pretty impressive. That's a pretty good result. It's easily the lowest risk option, as long as he can continue to make those payments. Option 2, a little bit less because he was getting kind of hammered by the tax man. In reality, he might not have got hit that hard, but he's got $698,200. Option 3, this is the first use of the Smith maneuver. This guy has $766,600. And then in option 4, like I said, the riskiest option, well, he's got that exact same $766,600 from doing the same thing as option 3, but he's also been building up with that excess money every year, and he's allowed to write off way more in interest than the guy in option 3 for the lifetime of that loan, because he's always paying that high amount. So after he pays off his $300,000 loan, at the end of the day, he's got $822,100. So that's obviously the clear winner in this case. He's got a greater amount than option 1 by about $107,000, $124,000 more than option 2, and $55,500 more than option 3. It is a good option, but I want to clarify that this option is not for everybody. Even if they are in a position to do this, you have to be really comfortable with investing and ups and downs, and the idea of borrowing and not paying down debt, and if the market falters, which it might over the course of the 20 years, and you panic, this could put you in a way worse position. And just from an advisor standpoint, obviously we are going to want you to do the option where you're investing more today than starting out with a monthly pack, because I'm obviously going to make more money if you invest $300,000 today rather than if you're just starting a monthly contribution. So maybe go with somebody that's actually weighing all the pros and cons and the options for you, and actually telling you how much they would make off of each scenario, because you don't want to work with somebody that's just pushing an idea because it sounds great on paper, but that just means they're going to make a whole bunch of money if you do it. Obviously this backfired for a lot of people. There was a lot of leverages happening before the 2008 financial crisis. Left a lot of people in a really bad situation. So I hope that doesn't happen if you're thinking about doing this. But for the right person in the right scenario, it can be very effective. And lastly, I kind of said that I would talk about how you could do this if you don't have the capital to pay off your house in full, which most people don't, of course. Well, one thing you can do if you can access some of the equity in your house is get like a revolving credit line, or whatever you want to call it, where as you're paying down the mortgage, it frees up more money that you can borrow. So if you're paying $2,000 in a mortgage payment and $1,000 of that is towards the equity, then the next month you can borrow an extra $1,000 towards the equity. So what you could do is each time you do this, you could peel out your extra equity and put that into a non-registered account. Keep paying the interest on this, but be able to deduct that interest against your gains. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. There's some articles online you can find if you Google the Smith Maneuver. And thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe and feel free to leave a comment, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.